Milky Way galaxy. So we've got a really, really impressive start to all of this. And in this fire creation, left forth not their father, but a new god, the maize god. If you're in Central America, you don't worry about the comings and goings of winter and summer. There are no seasons. It's rainy, and then there's a dry season. You can grow all the time. And the number one food staple would have been corn. To them, the maize god, rising from the fire of creation, would mark the entirety of their cosmology. And like many of the other ancient civilizations, the Mayan astronomical views are very closely tied to their mythology. And so, to them, and throughout Central America and the Caribbean, there were very, very large trees with white bark. They're known as ceiba trees. They have massive root systems, very, very thin, tall trunks, and huge canopies. To the Mayans, these were the huacachans, the world trees. Their roots deep down in the underworld of Xibalba. The trunk would go through the middle world, and the canopy would stretch out into the heavens, through the first 7 layers of the heavens, until it reached paradise. And in this tree, all of existence could be known. But to them, it was more than just a tree. It wasn't just an earthly thing. It's something that could be connected to the sky itself. And so for the Mayans, as they try to develop this universal view, the conquistadors show up. We don't have to talk long and hard about the Spanish coming over, deciding that there's a white tree that often looks like a cross. And then they ask them, is that a Christian cross? Do you believe in Jesus? And they're like, we have no idea what you're talking about. And the Spanish decide to burn about 95% of all the Mayan writings. So we have that going for us. We have very little to work with, except for a series of writings known as the codices. This one in particular is the Dresden Codex. It was brought over to Dresden in Germany, and it was analyzed in the early part of the 20th century. It is 45 pages, almost entirely having to do with astronomy. It is the single oldest written document in the Western Hemisphere. And in it, we have the entirety of what the Mayans believed about the sky. We got an idea about their calendar, their idea about the planets. They cared not for the comings and goings of seasons. They liked things that moved and were bright. The sun, the moon, and the planets. So to them, the sky was just as important to their life as the ground, as the corn, as the people, as a game known as Pocatello, the Mayan ball game. Little aside there, the Mayan ball game was about as dangerous as you could ever play. You played in a court about the size of a basketball court. There's a little ring up on both side walls. The ring's about 1 foot across. You have a ball that's about 10 inches across. It's made of hard rubber, and your job is to get that ball through the hole without it touching the ground. Except you can only use your knees, your hips, and your shoulders. If you lose, you get sacrificed. They behead you and roll you down the steps of the temple. So, it's kind of a one-and-done sort of thing. If you're on your 5th game, you're pretty much the Michael Jordan of Pocatello. So it works out pretty well. But the Dresden Codex gives us all of these ideas about what's going on in Mayan cosmology. And at the center of Mayan astronomy is the sun and the moon. We have what are known as steles, these massive stone monuments that were inscribed with stories of the Mayan people. And in them, the 2 most prominent members of the mythology are Xbalanque and Hunahpu. Hunahpu is going to be the sun god, there in yellow. And then you have Xbalanque, who is the moon god, in blue. These 2 defeat the Lord of Death, rise through the heavens, and are made into the sun and the moon. They are the cycle of rebirth and death, over and over and over again. And so the coming of the sun, the rising of the moon, very, very important for these people. But they also were very, very aware of what happened when one of them disappeared. Eclipses were incredibly important to the Maya, because if the moon were to turn blood red, perhaps the gods were angry. If the sun were to disappear, well, they've got to make sure to do all the sacrifices to make sure that pandemonium and anarchy doesn't show up in the society. And so, 1,500 years before Europe figures out how to do it, the Mayans are able to predict lunar and solar eclipses down to an accuracy of 2 hours, which is really quite impressive. Additionally, the Mayans understood the interplay between astronomy and everyday life. One of their major gods and goddesses was known as Ixchel. Ixchel was the goddess of fertility and the moon and the night, because they realized that women tended to go through a cycle that lasted about 28 to 30 days. which just so happened to correspond with the cycle of the moon phases. And so they came to believe that the moon controlled women's lives and that the sun controlled men's lives. Of course, we know that a little bit differently now, but they have an understanding that there's some sort of connection between all of this. And to the Mayans, more than anything else, their understanding of the world came from the fact that it was really, really dark back then. There were no lights. You can walk out here from the Science Center and not see much of anything. You go to the Yucatan, to Central America, way back 1,000 years, and it's pitch black. You can see everything. And so for them, in the summer, they would see the Milky Way arching across the sky. They would see this as the world tree. You can see the Waka-Chan connecting across. And at the very top was an animal known as the Itzimye, the celestial bird, who could see all things. This celestial bird would stretch from south to north as the Milky Way passed directly overhead in the middle of August. The Itzimye was kind of powerful. Sorcery, magic was its forte. And the Itzimye knew all things of all realms of existence. But in the wintertime, it told a different story. The Milky Way told the story of the crocodile canoe. It was the dugout canoe that Xibalanque and Hunahpu would use to cross the Celestial River, to defeat the Lords of Death. And so they would look to the sky and see the Milky Way arching from west to east. For them, the sky was a direct connection to their lives. And so, in the sky, there is one really, really important object for our friends the Maya, and it's Venus. The brightest of all the planets, the fastest of the movers that at least they could see, and they connected it to a god known Kukulkan. In the Aztec mythology, it's known as Quetzalcoatl. So important that we named a dinosaur after it. Quetzalcoatlus, the largest flying dinosaur on record, 38 feet across. It's huge. And so this feathered serpent becomes the center of Mayan astronomy. Venus is something they spent a whole lot of time talking about. They put it everywhere. They put it on the side of their temples. And they would watch Venus day after day, night after night, month after month, and come up with an absolutely amazing view of the universe. So amazing, in fact, that they would build an entire temple to it. This is El Castillo in the town of Chichen Itza. El Castillo is about 380 feet tall. It's one of the tallest pyramids in the entire world. And every equinox, in March and in September, the steps here along the side, which number, precisely 365, it's kind of an important number, will actually illuminate an area along the edge that looks like the scalloped back of a flying serpent. It happens twice a year on two very, very important days. But they also were able to figure out something that scientists were not aware of until the 20th century. And it's the fact that both Earth and Venus share what we call an orbital resonance. For every 13 of Venus's orbits, the Earth makes precisely 8 of them. And when you plot that out, it looks a little something we'll see that in a second. Here's the reason why. You've got the Sun, you have Venus, and you have Earth. We call these conjunctions. It happens when the Venus is either on one side of the Sun or the other. At superior conjunction, on the opposite side of the Sun, it becomes the evening star. But move it to the middle. In between the Earth and the Sun, it becomes the morning star. And these conjunctions were able to be mapped by the Mayans. Altogether, we have a map that looks like this. That is 8 years of Earth and Venus orbits. That is an actual movement map of Earth and Venus together. The Mayans were able to discern this 1,500 years ago in a jungle. And we couldn't figure it out mathematically until the early 1900s. So the Mayans, very, very advanced when it came to those sorts of things. And so we had to ask, how is it possible that the Mayans, in the middle of the jungle, with no use for the wheel, come up with a cosmology, a view of the universe so impressive? And it's because they were really ahead of their time as well. They built observatories. And so these observatories, hopefully, there we go, move forward, one more time. We'll see how this works. So, that's an observatory. This is El Caracol, the snail. It's in Chichen Itza. It is an observatory unlike any in the world. It looks a lot like the ones we have today. There's no telescope in the middle. It's actually a staircase. The staircase goes up to 4 different levels with windows on each of them. And as you move forward and up towards the top of the caracol, all of these windows begin to line up. And so scientists, astronomers, and archaeologists have been able to determine that there are at least a dozen different alignments between the windows in the caracol, telling you the rising and settings of very, very important stars. You can see Pollux and Castor of Gemini. It tells you where the sunrise will happen on the summer and winter solstices, on the equinoxes, allowing you to set up your calendar so precisely that over the course of the entire Mayan calendar, 5,000 years of the long count, it is only off by 45 minutes. They did this with stone. And so if you're going to put your equations down, this is why nobody at UCF in calculus is using pen. The last thing you want to do is go, damn it, and then have to take the whole thing out. Here they're putting it in stone, and all they come up with is a calendar that's off by 45 minutes over the course of 5,000 years. It's pretty good. And so the astronomy altogether of the Mayans, really, really amazing. I mean, the calendar's great, but that astronomy is far, far more impressive. And it's something that we still use today. A lot of the observations of the Mayans are still being used by astronomers around the world at this very moment. So that, in all of 15 minutes, is the entirety of Mayan astronomy. So thank you guys for having me out. All right, so let's do some Q&A. Ricardo, I'm going to give you, I'll give you patrol of that side of the room. I'll take this one. Anybody with questions? All right, there in the middle back. You, sir, in the front.
Do you think there was any alien influence to this at all?
Any alien influence? Well, you use Occam's razor. What's the simplest explanation? Either these people were really, really smart, we got to give people credit for that, or that somehow a highly advanced civilization traveled trillions of miles at probably faster than the speed of light to land in the middle of a jungle somewhere in the Yucatan to talk to a bunch of different people and say, you know what? We can give you a calendar that's 45 minutes off over 5,000 years. And I got to tell you, the astronomers should have said, we want 30 or nothing. We want a little bit more precision. You're coming across the universe. There's actually a sarcophagus, the top of a coffin, in a city called Palenque. It's in northern Mexico. That purports to show an astronaut blasting off into space. And it's one of the great ancient astronaut parts of the theory that somehow the Mayans were actually aliens themselves, and that's why they disappeared. But yeah, it's not going to happen. There's no aliens, unfortunately. Yeah.
Didn't the Antikytherian device predict eclipses before the Mesoamericans?
We found out that it did. It's highly unlikely that the people that built it actually used it for that. The reason being is that after a certain amount of time, especially what's known as the Soros cycle, you can actually get certain things to predict lunar and solar eclipses because they are repeatable. The Mayans were the first to go out and try to do this directly. The device was a little bit more hit and miss. But of course, this is happening in the middle of a jungle in the Western Hemisphere when we're supposed to be in the middle of the Bronze Age, not over in Europe when things are supposed to be advanced and amazing. So yeah, kind of given their location and sort of the reputation they had before the 20th century, we'll give the Mayans everything they've got at this point. Really, really impressive. All right, so we'll go there and then over there to you, sir. Yes? Well, there is precession in all things. Because the Earth is tilted, we actually wobble around like a top. And so right now we point at the North Star Polaris. 5,000 years ago we pointed at a very different North Star. It's called Thuban. The reason we know that is because the pyramids in Egypt are not aligned to our current North Star. They're aligned to Thuban 5,000 years ago. It allows us to figure out, within about 100 years, how long ago the pyramids were made. The precession is this. What we see in the summer sky is actually what they saw in the winter sky, and what we see in the winter sky today is what they saw in the summer sky. That being said, it doesn't really change too much of the story. It just changes the time of the year. Although for them, the summertime it's 93 degrees outside. In the wintertime it's a balmy 87. And so for them there really wasn't much of a difference. But that precession has only changed the time of the year that we see these different stars, not necessarily the stars themselves. Good question. Yes? Yes, they did. And there's a good reason for that. Well, their actual calendar, what we call the Hob calendar, was 360 days. So we know that 360 was an important number to them. They had 5 days at the end of the year that were kind of cursed days. Nobody went out and you didn't shower in those last 5 days of the year. Which basically sounds like final weeks if you're at UCF. That being said, The base 20 system of the Mayans is very, very simple for us to understand, because if you have no shoes and you want to count, you have 10 on your hands and 10 on your feet. That's base 20. For some reason, Europe and by extension, the Arabs, when we started to put together the Arabic numeral system, decided that base 10 was a little easier. In fact, base 20 is much, much easier when you're trying to do basic addition and subtraction. And so the reason we think that much of the mathematics in Mayan culture was so advanced is because they had a system that the Western Hemisphere was not used to using. And so in base 10, all of this seems very, very difficult. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. In base 20, you've got 1 through 20 plus an additional zeros. This is one of the first civilizations in the world to think of the idea of nothing being something. And put all that together, well, you can do things in Mayan math that Newton had to invent calculus for. So, Newton decided he ran out of math and needed new ones. And so now all of you have to take calculus because of him. He got bored one day and decided to create entirely new mathematics. The Mayans sort of did that about 600 years before he did. Any other questions? Yes?
I was wondering, I might have said this already, but is it Earth-centric or Sun-centric for their view of the universe?
For the most part, it is Earth-centric. But to them, the movement of Venus and the moon, far more important than the movement of the sun. So we don't see a lot of references to geocentrism. They also didn't view the Earth as the center of the universe, like symbolically. The Greeks were so obsessed with the Earth being the middle of the universe, and Ptolemy in ancient Egypt so obsessed with us being perfect in the universe, that the cult of geocentrism became far more popular in the West, or in Europe. Over with the Mayans, it was sort of a non-issue for them. The sun rose, the sun set, it was hot, the corn grows, we sacrifice a few people, we go to war, and we call it a day, and we move on. So the Mayans were simple people. Calculus, sacrifice, and the occasional ball game, which worked out really well for them for about 800 years. Any other questions? Yes, you sir, and then in the back.
Did any of the Mayan writings influence anybody over in Europe?
Not that we're terribly aware. Most of the writings that we discovered have only been in the past 150 or 200 years. There's always been talk that the Europeans came over early. There's a theory with not tons of backing to it, that the Phoenicians actually came to South America and Central America about 4,000 years ago. Very, very little proof to that. But it should be noted, in terms of influence, that Joseph Smith, the founder of Mormonism, did believe that Jesus went to be with the Mayans during his 18 years between when he's 12 and he's in the temple and he's supposed to disappear until he comes back, that in those 18 years that he is not in any of the scriptural records, that he went to go live with the Mayans in the Yucatan. Now, that's probably not true. Joseph Smith had a couple of not so great ideas. But the Mayans didn't exist 2,000 years ago, as far as we know. So there is that connection, but not much else. We've just been really impressed by how well they were able to do this through that. Oh, okay. And then we'll do, how much time we got? 1, 2? Oh, cool.
More questions.
So what are some of the concepts or usefulness that astronomy gets out of having this long record from Mayans and other civilizations?
It makes it incredibly easy to date things. From an archaeological perspective, we can date the reigns of kings and queens, the falling and rising of empires in Mayan history, down to the day. And in fact, because of the accuracy of the long count calendar, we're able to determine that the last true creation in Mayan history was August 13th, 3114 BCE, at 4 p.m. in the afternoon. That's how precise the long count calendar is. And that's the most famous one. We have Mayan calendars that actually stretch for more than 5 million years. And they're increasingly inaccurate as you get out that far. But the fact is that you can go out 5 million years in Mayan calendars and only be off by about 10 or 15 years, which is amazing. Some of you would count to 1 million and probably just get caught about 2,000, then forget and have to start over, and they can get up to 5 million with a calendar where two big wheels touch each other. They move around and the system somehow works over the course of thousands and thousands of years. It's pretty amazing. Any other questions? Yes?
How did practical life change for the Mayans?
God has determined it's the correct time. And off we would go. And so from the day-to-day lives of people, knowing the calendar meant that you knew sort of when the harvest should begin, when the rainy season would begin and end. And that's going to be really important in terms of moving from the low regions to the highlands. Less important for the people that are living down in South Guatemala. Southern Guatemala is incredibly mountainous. And so they didn't care too much about the dry and the wet season, simply because it was far more consistent. But in the Yucatan, in Tikal and Chichen Itza, where we have just a wetter, more humid version of Central Florida, you have to know when those things are going to occur. And so if you have a general sense of what time of year it is, then you're going to be better off kind of knowing, all right, we shouldn't set up the market this Sunday, because we're probably going to get rained out and we're all going to kind of float down the river towards the Gulf. You don't want that. But in general, it's more of the priests and the astronomers and I guess what we would call the scientists of the Mayan people that had far more connection to the astronomy, the cosmology of the people than anybody else did. No worries. He runs the place.
I run the place. But I want to, first of all, quick round of applause for Michael for a good day. I want to say that Michael will continue to drink and hang out, so if you have more questions between all the breaks, feel free to harass him, and he loves to talk about this kind of stuff. He does shows at the planetarium every week, so if you're ever available, go to Seminole State and check out the planetarium shows. And we have something for Michael. Peter's going to give them to him right now.
Yeah, so we got this bag for the speakers, and you're probably wondering, what's in the bag? Right? So it's a Space Coast, Florida Space Coast bag. And we got some space ice cream in here for you. There'll be more of that after gym if you're coming to the gym. And Captain Forever Remix. This is made by the Indie Box, which is a local, well, the game wasn't, but the box was put together by Indie Box. It's a local company that makes physical boxes for games. There's also an awesome lapel pin, modeled here by me. You're gonna look like me now. And some stickers and other goodies in here.
Thank you so much.
We have somebody in the audience from Cypress Inheritance. Talia, if you were there, can you please come forward? I can't see you. You there? Where? Okay, she's coming. So, Cypress Inheritance is doing a contest where you can win some really cool stuff, and she's going to quickly tell you what Cypress Inheritance is and how you can win. And because I did not brief myself before I got here, so she's going to talk about it.
Thank you. Hi everyone. It's really awesome about how this game jam has really impacted my life, and then go into my new job, which is with Cypress Inheritance. I am super overjoyed to be here tonight. Not only am I an avid space geek, but I'm a huge supporter of the gaming industry. Last year, I attended my first game jam. Can you guess which one it is? Indie Galactic. With no idea what to expect. I met so many incredibly talented individuals, gamers, developers, and creators. I formed friendships that significantly impacted my life, and I realized the incredible influence the gaming industry has on STEM education and inspiring people to get excited about space. I spent the last year covering the exciting rocket launches and developments taking place in the space industry, but most recently my career has taken an interesting turn. I am a media specialist with a growing multimedia franchise called Cypress Inheritance. This company has a lot of exciting developments on the horizon, including an awesome video game. But that is not why I am here. We are hosting 2 contests, an art contest and a community contest, and I am extending an invitation to all of you to participate. Prizes will be awarded to the top 3 winners in both categories. We have 4 Alienware gaming PC bundles and 2 laptops ready to go. You can visit www.cypressinheritance.com, which is right there, for details and to enter. And you can do that very soon because the contest ends exactly 1 week from today. You can come to me or my coworker, Erin, she's also up there. We have flyers and we're available to answer all of your questions and give you more details of the contest. And we hope you have a great time. Thank you.
All right, so real quick before we take our first break, I wanted to say that Nerd Night employs a lot of really talented and very diverse and and capable people from the community. And a lot of the people that are going to be on stage tonight, some of them are actually in the audience like you guys. So if you're ever interested in being a speaker at Nerd Night in the future, please talk to me later or email me. I love the idea of people going from where you're sitting to being right here. I think that's really amazing, and we all have something to really share and something that we're passionate about. That's pretty much what the word nerd means, somebody who's passionate about a certain topic. So with that said, we're going to take our first break. Oh, that's the same shirt. Should have worn the Spock one. So we're going to take our first break. 10-15 minutes. Please feel to take a bathroom break, get something else or whatever, mingle with your friends, talk about what you heard Michael discuss, and maybe debate with him, ask him more questions. And then we'll come back with an amazing talk about... What is it about? Say it again.
ISRU.
ISRU, sorry. ISRU. I could have just went to the next slide and looked, but whatever. Alright, so we'll see you guys in about 15 minutes.
No, I've never been to science center. Yeah, like I saw like late 90s. What happened?
Can y'all even hear me? Yeah, y'all can hear me. How's that for terrible lighting? I'm gonna like lean way back out of the light here because there's like no light at all here. So I'm just making this all up. The guy, like I wasn't supposed to stream tonight, and very much at the last second, like 5 o'clock, one of the guy that's in charge of all this is like, hey, were you gonna stream the thing Thursday night? And I was like, no, I was just gonna go drink a beer. And here we are. So I got here, I brought my whole, look, I'll try to show you guys. We've got the whole streaming setup is all set. You can see my tablet monitor here and the mixer and everything, and the big ballistic case is here behind me. But I just kind of got it all plugged in. There we go. And got it all set up. So everything I need to do a stream from any place with an internet connection is in this box. And that's why we're live right now. So the lighting's terrible. Like I can lean forward into this light. I mean, just whatever. Everybody is filing outside to get a drink and stuff like that. I'm not even using my headset mic right now. I'm just using the, there's a shotgun mic on top of the camera. So that's the deal. Take your hat off. No, I'm not gonna do that. So that's the whole plan. Like all weekend long, I'm gonna be doing streams from here in Orlando, and it's the Indie Galactic Space Jam. It's like a 48-hour thing where anybody can come, and tomorrow there's going to be people with ideas for games that like teach space or get people excited about space or whatever, and they're going to do pitches tomorrow evening, and just random programmers, graphics artists, and like music people and whatever can come and like volunteer to join a team. And so they'll have 48 hours to generate a game, right? Like Saturday and Sunday. And at the end of the day on Sunday, they'll present their games, and there's different awards. Like Microsoft will give out some support if they make a game based on the Kinect. And then there's one that's like, if it features locations on the coast to coast thing. The Florida Space Coast Commission, I think, is doing some stuff there. So all weekend. That's the plan. I'm going to be at Indie Galactic Space Jam. I'm going to be broadcasting just about as much as I can. I've got the whole streaming set up. We're going to be playing some of the games that they're making. We're going to be playing some Kerbal Space Program probably tomorrow. I'm going to be offering my services as someone who can ask gamers their opinions about like games that are being made and that sort of stuff. So I'll be like, hey, you're developing a game. Get over here and get on the camera with me, and let's talk about your game. And if you have any questions about whatever, you can ask the people in my chat, and they'll answer some questions for you. Am I going to talk about KSP? Yeah. I mean, of course. It's like, KSP is like a very kind of quintessential indie... Oops, I pulled that over. I hope I'm still alive. Yeah. Very like quintessential indie space-related game that's very STEM and that sort of stuff. So I'll be doing the KSP sales pitch squad. Thing here, I'm on camera battery power right now, and I don't have the actual like line in power for the camera, and it shouldn't be a problem because I've got like 10 batteries for it. But somewhere in one of these bags, I know I've got the plug. I just didn't have a chance to find it before we started. So I think I might go to like a BRB sort of screen and cut the mic and just play some Popski and see if I can find that thing. But I think that the next talk, what do they say? The next talk was going to be about ISRU, like in situ resource utilization, which is something we can do in KSP. So that's the plan for now. Casper, dude, thank you so much for putting the little logo thing together for him. I totally appreciate that, dude. And I am going to Russian extension cord. No, I've got power. I just need to find where the camera adapter is, and it's in one of these bags. I just didn't find it. So please excuse the poor lighting. I've actually got lighting. I could get better lighting on myself. I could give them better lighting. I have like all the professional lighting from the Intrepid stream in the car because I drove down here. But anyways, let me do this. I'm going to go to an AFK screen. I think it's probably going to be... Did they say when the next talk is going to be? No clue. I don't actually know when the next talk is going to be, but that's the plan. An RTG, yes. I'll do an RTG. I'll just plug an RTG and that sort of stuff. Just turn up the gamma, get the lighting nice, light up the entire place. I can put 2 lights down there, those LED lighting arrays that I had. But anyways, that's what we're doing. We're hanging out at the Indie Galactic Space Jam. I'm going to pop on some Popski and go to kind of like an AFK screen. When the next thing comes back, I'll be streaming that again. A space talk about ISRU refinery. You have the light of 1,000,000 suns. Not exactly. And I'm looking, look, this is, right? You can see that, right? That's what I'm looking at. This is my tablet monitor that goes with the rest of the streaming setup. That's what I see. And I've got my little keyboard as well. So anyways. I'll be right back, guys. I'm going to go to an AFA screen, and thank you guys for hanging out with us. No, you do. Appreciate it. All right, so apparently the next speaker's coming up, and it's going to be Annie. That's the information I got. She's going to be talking about ISRU, so now you know.
Did you announce outside? Yeah, let's, I'll be right back.
What? You just told me? Oh, good God. Seriously. Well, I mean, I can talk to y'all. Y'all can hear me. Let me try this. Let me try this different mic here and see if you guys like the other mic better. I've got a different mic that I can plug in, and we'll see if this one sounds any better. So, chat, I'll be reading. Let me know what the deal is. If this mic is more better than the other mic. Like that. Yeah. I need to find my mic plug. All right, this is gonna be weird. Turn it off at first.
So many years have passed, and it was there we go. Yeah! We bro out. We never hug him. We bro out. It's a difference.
This is a very directional mic, guys.
Broing is usually more.
So this is a directional mic that I've got a shotgun sort of set up on top of the camera. I don't know if this is any better for y'all. It's a much higher quality mic, honestly. And I wonder how it's probably going to be better for the speakers, really. You can't, yeah, you couldn't hear me with the directional mic, but you probably won't be able to hear me. Wait, let me zoom out some here. I'm like cameraman and everything here. You probably won't be able to hear me clicking on the keyboard and stuff, too. So if this doesn't work, I can just unplug it. Once the speaker starts, give me some feedback in chat, and we'll just kind of play it by, literally, play it by ear. So, anyways, they're filing back in, and we're about ready for the next speaker at Indy Galactic Space Jam, sort of deal. My tablet's way down there, so I can't see what's going on. But that's what's going on, guys. I'm in Orlando, Florida. I'm at the Orlando Science Center right now. We're at the Indy Galactic Space Jam, sort of like kickoff speaker nerd night thing. We've got a bunch of different like space and gaming related speakers going on, and I'm broadcasting that. I'm sitting up in the top of like a huge dome area. Let's see. Actually, I should just go mobile and take it off there, but this is like a huge planetarium dome. That's like all the way up, and then this is like.
I don't think that's a bad one, actually. They would use that at pumps.
You can't hear me. It's a directional mic. You can't hear me when it's not pointed at me. So anyways, that's what's going on. I'm just waiting for this guy to get going and stuff. Oh wait, it's getting quiet. That seems like a thing.
Thank you guys for enjoying.
Yeah, alright. I'm going to go back to him, and we'll see how this is.
I hope you got a beverage and a bathroom break as well. So we're going to right into the next presentation. We have Annie, who's going to read all of this stuff on the screen because I can't pronounce 3 of those words. So please give a round of applause for Annie. Utilization. Okay, I got it.
Wow, that first talk was really good, which made me really nervous. Did any of you ever see the movie Apocalypto? That's what that talk reminded me of a lot. It's pretty cool. So there's a lot of gamers in the audience, I'm guessing. Are there any readers? How many of you have read the book, A Short History of Nearly Everything? It's a good book. How about The Martian?
Yeah.
That'd be weird. Or maybe you'll see the movie that comes out. So I'm here because I'm talking from Kennedy Space Center, some research that's going on called in situ resource utilization. And since that's a mouthful to say, we just say ISRU. But in the book, A Short History of Nearly Everything, Bill Bryson touches on the fact that in our whole universe, we have everything we need all around us already. And that goes and ties back into ISRU because, well, you'll see. So, oh yeah, there's my title slide. Okay. So, okay, this is like a cookie cutter NASA slide, the journey to Mars, how we're going to get there. And it talks a lot about having Earth-dependent systems, and we learn from things on the International Space Station, and then how do we learn from there to propel into long-duration missions into deep space, because it's going to take us months to get to Mars, and develop Earth-independent systems. So Earth-dependent to Earth-dependent to Earth-independent. There's a lot of phonetics in my talk, so I'll try to open my mouth when I speak so I get it all out. So this is the logo for ISRU, and the concept of it is living off of the land. It's very expensive to go from Earth to space. There's a lot of resources that have to come with us from Earth to space. So how about we use what's already around us, the logistical waste that we have, or what's on another planet, and how do we repurpose that into something useful, like fuel, and breathing air, and oxygen, and shelter, and radiation protection. That whole concept is ISRU. So I'm here to talk to you about the project that I work on at KSA. It's called Marco Polo. I guess you would expect to see a picture of Marco Polo in our logo. I wasn't around when they came up with the acronym for Marco Polo, but it stands for the Mars Atmosphere and Regolith Collector and Processor for Lander Operations. Hence, welcome to NASA. You have a lot of crazy acronyms. So that is Marco Polo. This is an artist's concept of what Marco Polo would look like. Basically, it's this little lander over here, and it would drop on the surface of Mars months before a crew even arrived, and basically harvest resources from the atmosphere and from the ground and produce water, which would get split into hydrogen and oxygen, as well as methane for fuel, and oxygen for breathing air for the crew. So that is Marco Polo, so that when a crew arrives, or if we just want to take samples home, we have the liquid oxygen and the liquid methane for a return vehicle based off of a LOX liquid oxygen, liquid methane engine. This is what Marco Polo looks like from a 3D schematic top view. I'm going to go through each module pretty quickly because I don't work on all of those, I just work on one, but it's cool to see what they all do. So first we have an excavator, and that basically carries a little hopper, goes and takes a core sample into the surface of Mars, and then it carries it over to the soil processing module, where a dryer with a CO2 sweep gas, a carbon dioxide sweep gas, dries out any water that's inside of the regolith from Mars. The excavator and the soil processing module are between KSA and Ames. Ames has a drill that's they're developing. Then we have the atmospheric processing module. This is the module that I work on. I think it's pretty cool. It basically takes in the atmosphere of Mars, which is at about 8 torr, or less than 1% of Earth's pressure, and it's composed of about 95% carbon dioxide, a little bit of argon, a little bit of nitrogen. And if you think about Earth, we have oxygen, nitrogen. Well, on Mars, you just have mainly CO2, okay, about 95, 96%. So we capture that Mars gas in, and we convert it into fuel and water. And I'll explain that a little later. Then we have the water processing module and the water cleanup module. So these modules will get any contaminants out of the water. They will store the water for us, because then we need to use an electrolyzer and split the water into hydrogen and oxygen. And so we have over on the right, we have hydrogen storage, and then we have a liquefaction module that would liquefy the gases into a cryogenic state for fuel. Yes, it's so easy. Totally easy. Let's see. Okay, and then I'm totally leaving out the fuel cells and the avionics and everything, but you know, they told me I had 15 minutes to talk, so. Okay, so this little top left corner is what I work on at KSA. I pretty much love it. It's called another acronym, the APM, Atmospheric Processing Module. And this is what it looks like in the lab. It's definitely not flight ready, but this is the hardware that we test in our lab. And if you can follow along with this, I think you should try to make a game out of ISRU for all you gamers in the room. And if you can follow this, you should probably just be a chemical engineer or a chemist or a mechanical engineer or something like that. So go you. Get ready. Okay, so we take the Mars gas, which has mainly carbon dioxide, nitrogen, and argon. Yeah. And then we use these dual cryo coolers that freeze out the CO2. And that's how we separate the carbon dioxide from the argon and the nitrogen. What is a cryo cooler, you ask? That's a cryo cooler. So basically it uses a free piston Stirling cycle, which is really fast compression that separates out the hot from the cold cycles so that we can get CO2 ice, basically. It traps it on a cold finger, which is made of copper, and so you pretty much have this dry CO2 ice that's accumulating in solid form on the cold finger. Then we sublimate that and put it into vapor phase and store it, because again, the Mars atmosphere is at a much lower pressure, and we need to pressurize it to go into our awesome reactor. A reliable system. We have one on the International Space Station. You add a little bit of hydrogen to the carbon dioxide, and that's where you get methane and water. So we feed the hydrogen in a little bit of excess, so that's why we have a little bit coming out. And this is definitely not what the real reactor looks like, but this is what a very simple schematic of the reactor looks like. So on the bottom, you have your gases going in and your gases coming out. It passes over this magic catalyst that is made of ruthenium, and then an awesome exothermic reaction happens, which means heat keeps on forming. So you can actually almost have a runaway reaction where things can get really hot. So you have to be careful of the flow rates and the different percentages that you feed the gases in, because you want it to be very controlled. And the catalyst helps us selectively form a lot of methane, which again, we want methane because that's fuel. That's how we get samples home and maybe people home. So, all right, let me go back one. So you guys following all this okay? Good? Awesome, okay. So, then we have to split all of our products out. And I had like 5 additional slides on how we do that, but then I was like, no, I'm not gonna like bore everybody. Especially after the first talker, I was like, oh, I'm so glad I took that out of the presentation. So then we have water, methane, and hydrogen. They all just, in this magic red box, get split out into the 3 different constituents. And we are going to be stored in a storage tank and methane in a storage tank. And then the hydrogen, because we fed it in excess, we actually recycle that hydrogen back into the Sabatier reactor, so it's a sustainable. And once we split the hydrogen from the water that we formed, so because water is H2O, so you have the hydrogen go one way and the oxygen go another way, so the oxygen can be breathing air or it can be liquid oxygen fuel, and then the hydrogen we recycle. So that keeps the Sabatier reaction going, so we don't have to bring a lot of hydrogen with us if we can get the chemistry right. So, methane for fuel. Pretty picture. And that's really all my talk is. I just wanted to show you guys how cool it was. Right now the next steps are, so we pass about 88 grams per hour of the Mars atmosphere into the system, and we run both cryo coolers at the same time in order to feed enough methane that matches the NASA Mars architecture study of how much methane you need for a liquid methane, liquid oxygen vehicle to go home. So that's why we pick 88 grams of CO2. And then, let's see, we run a lot of continuous long-duration tests that prove that this works, which we're really excited about. So the next steps would be to take this top left module, remember that pizza pie picture I showed you, and integrate it into all the other stuff. So not only do we have to make this stuff work, then we have to integrate it into other people's stuff at other people's centers. And that's very challenging because not only do you have time zone changes, but are they using the same pipe sizes that we are? Whoa, integration, hello. So there's a lot of challenges that are going to happen, and we can do so many things to optimize just this. But we have to have a lot of technologies ready so that we What? We have to have a lot of technologies ready before we can even think about sending samples home or bringing people back from Mars. I know a lot of people talk about a one-way trip to Mars, but even then they're going to need air to breathe, right? So, and they're going to need water to drink. So these technologies are really important because the more fuels we can make on another planet, the less we have to bring from home, and then the cheaper things will be. So when you go see The Martian, the movie that comes out soon, you're going to see a lot of this ISRU concepts. And I am so excited because when I read the book, I was like, this is what I work on. And so I was really, really excited about it. And when you see The Martian, think of Marco Polo and try to remember the acronym. And be like, yeah, I remember this girl who talked about this technology. But so that's my short talk. If you guys have any questions, I'll try to answer them. I wanted to add, because I told someone that I would. This is my second Nerd Night talk. The first one, it was Josh Manning was here, so I don't think it was a while ago, but he's in DC. He's in DC now, yeah. But I was on a Mars analog mission with High Seas, and so the one-year mission for High Seas that takes place in Hawaii on the slopes of a volcano starts in about 2 weeks. So if you want to check out the Mars analog study, it's funded by NASA. It's a psychological study. Check it out. It's HISEAS, High Seas. So yeah, just a plug for that. Okay, any questions? Oh, wow. Hat guy.
Yeah. So I'm kind of interested in the whole tiny house movement aspect of it, and that kind of relates somewhat to what you're doing. So I guess, do you think something would come of what you guys are working on that would benefit people that want to live in efficiency spaces here on Earth, or maybe even from methane is a waste product that we have a lot of. Mm-hmm. And is there, again, more practical use of that may come of the work that you're doing?
Oh, that's like a really loaded question. It's a really good concept. We have talked about in our meetings about capturing the CO2 that's a greenhouse gas in our Earth's atmosphere. That's a huge problem, and possibly freezing it out. That is about the extent of what our group has ever talked about it, though. So,
I meant like methane from cows.
Methane from cows. Oh, well, yeah. They are. I know that there's research going on in academia because when I was a chemie in school, the DOE and NSF fund a lot of projects that look at how to make methane and bio-waste and bioreactors from methane waste. So I know it's definitely out there. I just don't know much about it. But if you look up any bioreactors, I mean, most of that is methane waste that's getting turned into electricity or fuel somehow. Okay, guy to the left of hat guy.
So it's a technical question. With the Sabatier reactor, what's the catalyst and how long will that last as a final reactor?
Oh, okay, that's a good question. The catalyst is a ruthenium catalyst on an alumina substrate. It's not anything secret. It's very reliable and very good. Sabatier reaction has been around for a long time. It's very liked because it's very sustainable. It's exothermic, and that catalyst actually, as far as I know, does not get spent. And if it does, it's like years and years. But the reason why it doesn't get spent is because you have to every now and then bake it under reduction gas of hydrogen, and that'll clean everything out for you when it does get spent, and then you can reuse it right after you blow some hydrogen over it. In the back.
So did the makers of the film that's coming up, did they consult with you guys at all on the real science aspect of it, or did they just sort of make it up as they went?
Not with our team, but Tracy Gill in the audience just told me that where is he? Here you are. He told me that Andy Weir actually was confronted by scientists from NASA, and then he went back and edited some of the book. So that's why it was so good, because it actually had real stuff from the space industry in it. It wasn't like Gravity, you know the movie Gravity, where they switch orbits, then like right on a fire extinguisher.
Go away, Igor.
I
can just whisper to you.
So yeah, the Martian had a lot of real context.
Really important question. I want to know what your take is on that picture that's been on the internet with that whole Mars.
The 30th midnight I've done. So we're going to jump right into the next talk for the sake of time. I'd like to introduce, well actually first before I do that, there we go. So we'll be back here at the Science Center for Maker Faire on September 12th to 13th. Raise your hand if you've heard of Maker Faire. Raise your hand if you're going to Maker Faire. So if your hand is not raised, at the very next Nerd Night, we're going to have a little small contest, and we're going to give out a couple tickets to Maker Faire. So that'll be September 10th. So join us for that Nerd Night, and I'll be giving out some free tickets to Maker Faire that following weekend. All right, so for the sake of time, we're going to go right into the next talk. We'll skip over that pretty face. And that's ends. Oh, yeah, we'll talk about that later. Okay, so let's introduce my good buddy who's actually speaking at Nerd Night for the 9th time. He is an all-star. And we're about to find out why we keep bringing him back. Please welcome Max Jackson.
Hello. All right, guys. So I'm going to be putting the Max in IMAX for the next 20 minutes or so, starting right now. There I am. Look at me. So that is Max Jackson, age 4, having the time of his life with the technology of his day, including super slick blonde bowl cut, beige computer. Prodigy dial-up internet connection that sounded like the gates of hell when it started, and a big old smile on my face because I had sent my very first email. Wow. Email. I'd sent it to my grandparents letting them know that I was really, really hungry, but that I had just had an extremely delicious meal. I told them all about it, and so you can see the moment in my eyes when I first invented Instagram. It's all been downhill from there. With respect to emails. It's kind of got more and more boring after that. Now it's kind of a chore. You know, it's tedious. And is anybody here actually at inbox 0? Did you walk out the door today with exactly nothing in your email inbox? Wow, 2 hands. 3, 4, 5. All right, so we're running steady at like 9% of us here are actually keeping on top of this stuff. It sucks. But this is something that kind of happens with technology. It starts out really exciting, changes the moment, like, wow, everything's going to be different now, and then it kind of recedes into the background, just becomes another part of what it means to be human in your day and age. But not with all technology. We're here today to celebrate a particular kind of technology, games. For me, games are something that I'm still interested in, that I started playing back then, that I still play now. Now here's what I'm probably going to be firing up later. Did anybody here play Myst?
Myst. Nice.
Yeah. Still good. Of course, it's changed a lot. This was the first game that really struck a chord with me, a sort of point-and-click adventure game where you wander through a static environment, solve mysteries, and become one with everything. It's gone through a significant update, so this is what I'm going to be doing later. A couple other games were really cool to me back in the day, including this thing called Shadowcaster. The graphics haven't exactly kept up, but the cool thing about it was, for me, that you could transform into any one of these guys down here. I was really into Animorphs at the time, so just having this character that was able to shapeshift was just about the neatest thing. And then, of course, we have stuff that wasn't as fun.
Math Blaster. Nice.
Probably also something I'm going to be doing later, just to make sure I've kind of moved on. So, not all games endure, obviously. I'm not going to be going back and seeing if I can know my multiplication tables and recognize what a minus sign is. But some of them it is. So there's something about games, there's something about art that keeps us coming back, especially whenever it's tied into technology like this. And so I kind of had another email moment a couple years ago in my garage, You can see me there. Similar expression on my face. Much different attire, much different everything. The reason I'm smiling is because I'm wearing an EEG, an electroencephalogram. Basically, it's a device that helps you sense your brain waves. And what I can have right over there is a little program that turns my brain waves into commands for the computer. That thing is something that I just moved around. I just shoved it around my screen, pushed it all the way back without ever touching the keyboard, with intention alone. And man, I was stoked. I was so excited that I was able to have this sort of thing happen. And this is the sort of thing that you can have happen too. But what interests me today is what's going to happen to brain-computer interfaces. Are they going to go the way of the email? The way that they become just another tedious part of the background where you forget about it, hope you don't have to deal with it when you get home? Or they're going to go the way of the video game, where it's going to endlessly provide some source of entertainment, meaning, nourishment for you, novelty that you're always going to have a chance to explore for as long as you're you. Now, gaming has changed. So we have educational stuff now where if anybody's been alive and had a pulse for the past 5 years, you've probably heard the term gamification, where you basically what you do is you take something that is boring and you put a reward system on it, and you try to attempt to make it fun and something that attracts people the way that normal games that you would normally just sort of use to waste time on can become something that are meaningful. As in this case, the Khan Academy reward tree. You gain rewards for doing stuff that's good, for coming back, for achieving streaks and everything, and it is making a difference. But also, waste of time gaming has also advanced as well. Anybody here survived World of Warcraft?
These two right here.
So those two have survived World of Warcraft. We're honored to have you here this evening, rather than stuck at your computer. Novelty can be a bad thing too sometimes. So just because something is engaging and entertaining doesn't necessarily mean that it's healthy for you. You can keep coming back, keep discovering something new, and ultimately decide never to do anything else interesting ever again. The way that gaming has changed the most since I was a kid, that's interested me the most, are you all ready with the video up there?
Uh-oh.
We're good to go, yep.
Ready? Okay. Anybody here into speed running?
Woo!
Anybody here watch Summer Games Done Quick?
Yeah!
$1 million. Save the animals. So,
Save the animals.
So anybody, so here what we're going to see is a speed run of a level of Portal. So I'm
Nice.
you guys are familiar with Portal, right?
2 seconds. I don't know yet.
So I love Portal. That was basically my end of high school and early undergrad. And it's a great puzzle game where you shoot a hole in one wall, shoot another hole in another wall, and you can jump through those holes. And that is an extraordinarily simple concept that they made into something extremely tricky. So here we're going to see one of the later levels featuring the famous sentry bots that ask, where you are, how are you, and all that stuff. And we're going to see exactly how fast somebody can sort of engage with this and conquer it. So roll the video, please.
Action.
Due to mandatory scheduled maintenance, the appropriate chamber for this testing sequence is currently unavailable. It has been replaced with a live fire course designed for military androids. The Enrichment Center apologizes for the inconvenience and wishes you the best of luck. Well done,
So, that's almost incomprehensible to watch. Okay, so, how does this all fit together? How can brain-computer interfacing and gaming technology come together to keep it fresh and keep this technological moment from going the way of the email? Well, we've started our first sort of forays into neuroscience-based gaming, where you wear one of those brain sensors that you saw me wearing earlier, and you translate that directly into action within the game. Here, this game is called Throw Trucks with Your Mind. One guess as to what the goal of the game is. So what this game is, wear a similar brain sensor, and it senses your ability to concentrate. You can think of it sort of like using the Force in Star Wars, bending the spoon in the Matrix, that sort of deal. And if you do a good job, then you're able to throw trucks at your mates and defeat them that way in spectacular fashion. Similarly, we have stuff with concentration, stuff that's sort of helping build those muscles. We also have stuff that helps build emotional muscles. There's this creepy game with dolls with giant eyes and giant mouths that look at you constantly, called Nevermind. And it's also a neuroscience-based game that senses how anxious and freaked out you are while you play it. And the less anxious and freaked out you are while you play it, the easier the game mechanics get. This is a game that messes with you more, the more you respond to being messed with. played Amnesia? I downloaded it, I played 15 minutes of it, and I uninstalled it, so you guys got imagine Amnesia where the monster chased you faster, the more freaked out you got. That's the basic idea behind this. Where's all this going? The point that with neurogaming, what you're doing, whenever you're presented with something like an educational game, it's saying, you're learning math, and we're going to try to figure out how to make that fun. With neurogaming, what they're doing is, here's this game, here are these cognitive abilities that you have to use to defeat the game, and you have fun, and then you become better, you become stronger as a direct result of this. So you play that first game that rewards your ability to concentrate, and then, at the end of the day, you've developed a better ability to focus through your participation in that program. You play the scary game, the one that responds to you being able to calm yourself down, you've been able to develop better emotional self-regulation. And there's a real need for this. The people who need this a lot are kids, because kids are terrible at emotional regulation and terrible at concentration, and also actively resent being told what to do, actively resent being told to eat their bitter vegetables. But if we can combine neural technology and gaming into something that is organically fun first and foremost, we might have a new ADD treatment on our hands. We have a new way of addressing these sort of issues without ever having to alter the chemical makeup of the brain in any way. Similarly, with old people. Old people need help too. Now, decay is scary as hell, because if you live long enough, your brain's going to break. And a lot of this stuff that you've been working on your entire life, your memory, your identity, is going to slowly start to fade away. And that is a bad thing. But technology can help, because one of the ways that we've been able to help people is with brain games for the old as well, so that you can continue to improve your concentration, improve your emotional regulation, even at the very end of life. And also, it brings us together. Here we see two people using a brain-to-brain interface to play a game. So how this works is the guy on the left is playing this sort of game. I don't remember exactly what the kind of game is, but you know, one of those really old games where asteroids sort of fall out of the sky and you got to shoot them away. One of those 2D things. So he's aiming the cursor, he's deciding when to shoot, and then his decision to shoot is being sent to this other guy a mile away. His brain is being zapped, it's causing his finger to twitch, and it's causing him to press the fire button. Here we see our first brain-to-brain gaming interface. So if you think this is scary, or if you think this is cool, Pacific Rim happens. Decent special effects porno. 6 out of 10 in my book, but the cool thing was that it presented a kind of an optimistic picture of this stuff. If you see brain-computer interfacing in movies, you're probably used to stuff like The Matrix, where it dominates the hell out of us, or Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, where love overcomes our evil desire to take control of ourselves technologically. But here, we have it so that only through our combined willpowers, one of the premises of the movie is that it takes two people to operate one of those monstrous things, which creates for some pretty normal, predictable dynamics between them. But I think that's a really nice thing, that through collaboration and through work, we can create more power and more abilities to construct stuff than we ever could individually. But speaking of individually, there's a pretty big risk with all of this stuff. This is a graphic generated by the program called Electric Sheep, which is a really interesting community project. Basically creates 3D animated fractals, in which you then vote down on, and the computer is then able to generate more of them based on what you like. It's able to make something that's more beautiful and more entertaining based on your exact desires. Similarly, we have Google Heat Dream. It's mostly used for making really messed up dogs. But here we have another way that novelty is able to be present in our technology. If you thought World of Warcraft was addicting, wait until we get to the point where a computer is directly able to monitor your desires, monitor what parts of a piece of artwork you like, and make itself more interesting so you never ever want to leave. See, here we have this God himself being grounded through the deep dream. You can't barely see it, but the scariest thing for me is the idea that there is not one light at the end of the tunnel. There are billions of lights. Billions of lights. Well, hold on. There we go. Billions of lights for billions of people. Light shows designed specifically for you and for nobody else, where you spend the rest of your life living in a world of stimulation that is only you can understand, that only you can enjoy, and know isolation that is total and that is final. Thank you. No. But there's hope too. technology is not this one thing. Any technology, even like fire. Fire can be used to cook a meal or to burn a heretic. It's all the same thing. So, with this great power of brain gaming technology comes great responsibility. It can bring out the worst of us, our solipsism, our desire for private entertainment and isolation, or it can bring out the best of us, our desires for self-regulation, for emotional control, for focus and discipline. And ultimately, that kind of comes down to you guys here at the Intergalactic Space Jam, because you're creating stuff that's going to keep being fun in new ways every time you use it. So I hope you keep this power in mind, because you guys, and with the power that this stuff brings, we can create a world that is far better for our grandchildren's grandchildren, that surpasses our capacity to imagine how good it can be. So with that, thank you so much for your time and technology. For your time. This is really weird. I'm not used to neck strain. So who has questions? Yes. What sort of spikes? I do graduate school at UCF, and I do in my research lab. I do tissue engineering there. I grow little brains on computer chips. So there we're able to detect individual action potentials. With respect to the stuff that I work with most of the time, EEGs, it's mostly works on like when a bunch of neurons fire together at the same time. That's when you're able to detect it. It's sort of like holding a microphone over a traffic intersection to figure out how many cars are going by. So yeah, spikes are there. But, yes. This man's concerned about neuromarketing. Yeah, so neuromarketing, well, marketing exists. It's been going on intuitively for a zillion years. People have been figuring out how to make stuff more attractive. I suppose there hasn't really been as much of a science to it. But yeah, that is absolutely a valid concern, that sort of technology can be used for that, to figure out, like, put brain sensors on people, put them in front of an advertisement, and figure out what parts of the screen they're paying attention to, how excited they get about that. That's a thing. And there's a lot of potential of abuse for this, which is kind of why I want to get there first. Yes? I mean, the more you try to go for, the harder it gets, because you have to draw a lot of little lines in between clusters of data, and it gets really, really, really dicey the more lines you try to draw. Like on-off, controlling light switches with your brain is pretty easy, yes or no stuff. Once you get into more complicated stuff, like one continuous dimension, multiple dimensions, then it gets so difficult you clutch your head and scream.
One more question.
All right, last one. You with the AN that I can barely see. Yes. Orlando. Hey. Okay, go.
Okay, so what was going on with the babies? Like, what kind of stuff would you guys do?
We're not doing stuff with the babies, so we're doing stuff with kids though. So yeah, at the end of my talk, I'll do my mandatory plug. I'm a part of a neurotech startup called Cortex. I'm working with this guy, Felix. Felix, you wave your hand. Everyone say hi, Felix. So if you've seen have you guys seen the viral video with the Iron Man kid, Robert Downey Jr. giving an Iron Man arm to a boy? So we're working with that company to create mind control prosthetics. So that's going to be one of the things that we're going to be doing in the near future. So not babies. Not exactly sure what that happy baby was doing, but yeah, we're working with kids and larger things. So, all right. With that, thank you guys so much for your attention tonight.
Thank you for that great follow. So like every other speaker at Intergalactic Space Jam would like to bestow upon our presenter with this gift bag with a bunch of awesome stuff in it. Astronaut ice cream and a few other things, right? Yeah. Let's see what it is. Yeah, because I have no fucking idea.
It's a severed head.
It's out.
Captain Forever remix, ladies and gentlemen.
No need for the microphones.
Yeah. A sticker. And space ice cream.
Once again, give it up for Max Jackson. This is Mike Klein speaking at Midway. Phenomenal presenter, as you can tell. That's why you keep asking to come back. All right, so quick question. Do you guys like listening to people talk? Great, because there's other events that we that support Nerd Night, so we like to support them. And they happen monthly for the most part. The first is the Hive. I think I see Jeff in the audience here. Jeff, you want to give a wave? Jeff? Jeff's from the Hive as well, as am I. So the Hive is a monthly meetup that happens at Easton Market that is geared around sustainability. We work on local solutions for global problems in the area of environmental awareness. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, please check out the Hive. The next is the Orlando Tech meetup. I see a lot of familiar faces from Orlando Tech. Please raise your hand if you've been there before. Orlando Tech? So awesome. Orlando Tech is a meetup that happens monthly on the third Thursday, so that's next week. And basically it allows people that have their new businesses and their startups to demo their products. They get about 4 minutes, and it's really cool. If you're into that kind of stuff, please check it out next Thursday. Next is TEDx Orlando. They have monthly meetups called the Salon, but they are kind of lazy sometimes, so they don't always do them. But their next big event, which actually Max is going to be speaking at, is a TEDx Orlando event at the Winter Garden Theater on September 12th. So if you are available, you're into TED Talks, that kind of stuff, please check that out. It's a really nice venue, and it's going to have a great lineup of speakers. There's also Nathan Selikoff, who was outside, is also one of their speakers. Lastly is Pachakasha. So you probably recognize a lot of these faces here. Pachakasha and Nerd Night have a lot of similar speakers. I like them, they steal speakers from Nerd Night. Whatever. So their next event is going to be in December. Is Eddie here? No. Whatever. So that's it. I just wanted to quickly plug all those events because they are great community events that happen monthly for the most part, and they support Nerd Night and we support them. So next, we're going to go right into our fourth speaker of the evening. Ruben, if you'd like to join us up here. Please give a round of applause for Ruben Nunez. Here you go, my friend. Bottom advances, top goes back.
Bottom one advances? That is weird. Okay. Thanks for your introduction, Ricardo. Thanks for inviting me. It's my first time speaking at a Nerd Night. I just got back from the Dominican Republic yesterday. I barely slept, so please bear with me. I was over there with some childhood friends, and it reminded me that we used to stay up late at night playing Twisted Metal and drinking about 2 liters of Coca-Cola with some cookies. So we would play for the entire weekend without sleeping, which is what we're here for, is to create video games that are related to space. I'm here to talk to you about a few of the projects that I'm involved in and how I got involved within the space industry. So I was first inspired by pop culture. Movies like Star Wars, Weird Science, E.T., and going to Kennedy Space Center, of course. From that, I said, I want to build rockets. But then there was a time that I said, I also want to do plastic surgery. So eventually I just ended up doing rocket science. While at UCF, there was an opportunity that came to me, which is for an international competition called the Google Lunar X Prize, where teams from around the world have to send a rover to the moon, travel 500 meters, send HD video, an email, a text message, several panoramic views back from the moon, and the first team to complete that wins a grand prize of $20 million. I was a sophomore in college when I discovered this, and the reason why I pursued this was because nobody wanted to give me an internship because I partied a little bit too much, so my GPA dropped to a 2.6 from a 3.6. Just a bit of history there. Yeah. So we've been doing this for about 7 years now, and the company that we started is the Earthrise Space Foundation. It's a nonprofit to provide students with hands-on experience building spacecraft. And most recently, the Google Lunar X Prize created a documentary called Back to the Moon for Good. It's featured in planetariums around the world. And you can also watch it now live on YouTube, so you have a bit of understanding of what we are doing. So here are a few images of students working on the project, running simulations, building spacecraft parts, landers, soldering, also testing in lunar regolith bins. Here's a design of the latest version of the rover. And most recently, within the past 6 months, they've built Sagan, and we tested it at Kennedy Space Center. Here I have him. I brought him for all of you to take a look at him. take pictures of him if you'd like. This is a 1-to-1 scale version of Sagan. And that's the actual one that was at Kennedy Space Center. At the moment, we're ready to start building the flight version of him. If funding comes through, that's a big challenge in the space industry as usual. So students built and designed this. So it's pretty impressive. I'm really happy with the results. And this is all UCF students that have performed this work. Which now leads me into a new or different subject, space mining. So people ask, why am I going back to the moon? We did it back in the 70s. It's been a few decades now. Well, I think that space mining is going to be a big thing. There's a fellow competitor of ours, Moon Express, that is planning on mining the moon for resources. So what Annie was speaking about, mining in situ resources in Mars, we're also planning to do so on the moon. Another company that is planning to mine asteroids is Deep Space Industries. And for those of you that are not familiar with this, this is a potential trillion-dollar industry. So this is one of the companies that intends to do this type of work. This should give you an idea probably for a video game you build. You have to build your spacecraft, you have to send it an asteroid, mine it, bring it back. It'd be kind of cool. And then there's also planetary resources. They just recently, not too long ago, had a Kickstarter where they raised over $1 million to send a satellite up into Earth orbit where people can send their pictures and get selfies from the satellite in space. So that was pretty successful, and they're going to be launching that soon, or it has been launched already. Next subject, space tourism. Companies like Virgin Galactic, some of you are familiar with that. Unfortunately, they had a catastrophe not too long ago, but that happens. Space is hard. There's mishaps that happen, and you just keep on moving forward. Soon they'll be flying a few people on a commercial basis, and that's pretty exciting. I definitely want to be able to do that one day. Hopefully some of you will as well. And you can also do this with Explore Aerospace. Virgin, you can have a group of 6 people. With XCore, you can do 1 person at a time. And then there's the other thing about being able to do a space dive. That's something that we've been talking about a lot. A few of the engineers that did the Red Bull Stratus jump currently work with me on a new project that we're developing from this. Here's a different image for space dives. This is a Google exec that actually broke Felix's record. And he just simply did it by going up without going in the capsule and jumping back down.
He's from Orlando.
Yes, he is. He went to UCF. You are absolutely correct. So where does this lead us? Karman is a company that is developing, which is making space diving as easy and accessible as skydiving. So first of all, what we want to develop, and this, I'm stepping on Max's toes right now. He's a fellow competitor in regards to this, but hopefully we can collaborate one day, is a brain-controlled interface. The suit that we're developing has this BCI that helps control the thrusters and aero vents. And it's a bit different than the Rebel Stratus jump, because he actually jumped from the stratosphere from 31 kilometers. What we're trying to do is a true space jump from 100-kilometer altitude. That's why it's called the Karman line, and the company's name came from that. So Max talked about video games, and also some prosthetics. But we want to dive into exoskeleton suits, also UAV control, and other industries as well. So let me tell you about the experience. You're in this suborbital vehicle. You have this next generation spacesuit. So this would be cool. I would love to see this as a video game. You jump on this ship. You go up. You're in a suborbital vehicle. You have that experience, and then all of a sudden you get ejected from that vehicle, and you're performing a spacewalk. You're doing a spacewalk for about 8 minutes, and then thereafter you start gaining more speed and more speed until you reach Mach 3.5, which is really freaking fast. But according to the scientist calculations, the guys that we
have hired for the company say that it's pretty safe. You know, Mach 3.5 is not that fast. And then you go through the space dive experience and land safely on Earth, once again, just as Felix did. But this time, under control. Next subject, satellites and space debris. This is what Earth looks like. That's not all of the satellites and debris. Okay, this is just a small representation of how congested our planet really is. And not a lot of people know about that. So this is one of my favorite clips from WALL-E. He's on the rocket, he's gonna see Eva. And he's leaving Earth's atmosphere. And all of a sudden, while he's going up, there's this giant field of satellites. That's unrealistic, it would have blown up, he would have died. End of movie. Okay. It's as simple as that. That's what really would have happened. There's a Sputnik. So, right now we are trying to catalog what is really orbiting Earth. So you can see all those little dots near Earth. That's called low Earth orbit. Those are the items that we know that exist at the moment that we can keep track of within about 50 meters. And then everything around it, that large ring, are all your geostationary satellites that provide GPS, and other military applications are used for those as well. So going back to space debris, somebody mentioned gravity. Annie mentioned gravity. Yes, some of the things were unrealistic, but again, it's possible for something like that to happen. Not too long ago, about a week and a half ago, the ISS actually had to maneuver out of the way of this debris that was coming towards it. So this is a big problem that we're trying to tackle, and one of the few companies that exist that are trying to do this, Vision Engineering, they build optical trackers. I'm currently assisting them to be able to, oops, it went back, yeah. There's a video. Let's go video. Yes, so we build optical trackers, and what we do is we can detect new debris, tell you where they are, and also tell you where CubeSats are, and tell you where they are within about a meter, which is pretty precise. And some people say, that's impossible, there's no way. Your GPS on your phone tells you exactly where you are. There's similar methodologies utilized in order to be able to do that. So with that being said, oh, that's the up button, which is supposed to be forward, not backwards. That is my presentation for tonight. If you have any questions, I open the floor to them. Thank you. Yes. There have been collisions that have been recorded for larger satellites, and those are collisions that have happened in polar orbit. So all from the satellites that are actually orbiting the North and South Pole. That's the most congested area right now, and there's a possibility of other collisions that can happen in the future. And so yes, there are nuts and little bolts and little pieces and God knows what. Just to give you a funny, something that recently came up, I don't think ever NASA or any other organization has never thought about what happens if an astronaut dies in space. Is there a protocol for that? And actually there isn't. Nobody knows what to do when that happens. So could you imagine, let's say Bob, the astronaut, and he just passes away in the ISS. Well, what do you do with the body? If you... yeah, that's fine. Yeah. So what happens? Well, if you eject the body, and the body, Bob, hits a satellite, damn it, Bob, what the heck? They're going to be pissed. You can't just eject a human being. Plus there's contamination issues, etc. There's planetary protection laws and yada, yada, yada. So yeah, all of these things are possible. There's a lot of talk about space is big. I was recently at the beach in the Dominican Republic. the beach is huge, and I'm just chilling in the water, and then all of a sudden someone random just stands right next to me. I don't even know who they are. But the beach is huge. Why are you even next to me? So it's probably a poor comparison, but nonetheless. Yeah. Hopefully that answers your question. Yes.
In your opinion, what's the timeline for us to do asteroid capture for mining?
The timeline?
In your opinion, what timeline?
My opinion, I say 30 years from now. Everything in space takes a long time, especially because of funding. So NASA's cutting their budget, which means they can only fund certain projects, which means venture capital needs to be involved, and that's happening a lot more lately. So Space Angels Network and other groups and other private investors are putting their money in within the space industry for these private companies. So if Richard Branson or any of those billionaires decides, here, let me put in a couple billion and accelerate the process, you know, it could be quicker. But it's all about money, mainly, really.
One more question.
Yes, go.
NASA is not cutting their budget. Congress is cutting it.
Yep, you're correct. You're absolutely correct. My bad. That's my mistake. Yeah, that was a statement. Yeah. Yep, you're absolutely right. Yes.
We'll do one more question.
One more question. One more question. Oh, yep.
Are there any authority figures that regulate space technology, comes up with laws, that kind of stuff?
There is a particular group, don't remember the name out of the top of my head, but space law is a thing, but there isn't like a supreme authority that says this is how we do things, and nobody can go to the moon and say, I claim the moon, unless you have like missiles and firearms there and tell people you can't land on the moon, you gotta pay me to do that, or there's no space police. So space is really a thing that people are more prone to collaborate with each other. So it's a thing about nations, it's a thing about multiple companies working together to make something happen. If you try to do it on your own, it's possible, but it'll just be very difficult and it'll take a long time. So, yeah, hopefully that answers your question. Thank you.
So real quick before we go to our last presentation of the evening, Callie is also from NASA, and she's going to quickly tell you about something called Space Apps. Here you go, Callie.
Thank you, Ricardo. So hi, my name is Callie Burke. I'm a trajectory analyst at Kennedy Space Center. So who's ever played Kerbal Space? Woo! Awesome, I'm glad you guys said that. So I do some of that stuff in my day job. But in my innovation outreach time, I work on a project called the International Space Apps Challenge, which, all right, who has heard of that? A couple people, all right. So that's NASA's global hackathon. We're coming up on our 5th year this April. Something we host locally. We hosted it a couple years at Kennedy Space Center. Most recently, it was held in April at Canvas in downtown Orlando. And so this is where we have people all over the world. We had 133 cities this past year and about 14,000 participants. And people are working all kinds of things. So just like this, we have a couple of challenges that we have this weekend for the Space Jam. NASA scientists and engineers put out about 33 challenges. And we want people to work on our open data and come up with interesting new visualizations, new apps, new mobile platforms, new games. So those of you guys that like developing space games, we have quite a few of those that are challenges that you come and you spend a weekend developing. And so we'd love to have some of you guys come out in April. And then also for those of you that are working on this weekend, Space Apps, we have some of those challenges I mentioned are great resources for ideas. We actually have a challenge from 2014 called Asteroid Prospector that is all about going and mining asteroids across the solar system. And they're very wide open, but they give you lots of resources. So if you're looking for information from NASA, papers, data, other kinds of information to make your game more realistic, lots of our Space Apps challenges have that kind of information. And we also coordinate, we will be having some NASA people coming, particularly tomorrow evening, Friday night, and Saturday morning. And we'll try and make sure we're going to be identifying ourselves so you guys can come up to us and talk about stuff. You want to learn about what we do in our regular jobs, or if you have questions about how you can make your game more realistic, or just, we realize there's lots of fun space games that have no realism in them. But if you're looking for
KSP.
ideas, we might be able to help you with that. So we look forward to seeing you guys there this weekend. Otherwise, I'll see more of you guys at future Nerd Nights. So thank you.
One more quick stage for you guys. We're going to jump back onto the topic of gaming.
Okay, good.
Please welcome Adriel.
Is there a button? No, okay, there's not a button. I'll let all these people run away before I start talking. Yeah, whatever. I see how it is. Well, there we go. So yeah, my name is Adriel Wallach. I'm an independent game developer based out of the Netherlands. I used to live in Boston, was based out of there for a long time, but now I'm over far, far away.
There you go.
This is going to be a super practical talk, and really geared towards people who are going to be at the jam. Who else is going to be here at the jam? Yay, jammers! So one of the things I did when I first went solo indie developer was I spent an entire year making one new game every single week. So I basically spent an entire year jamming continuously every single week. And I learned a lot of lessons from that because, if you do something for an entire year, week after week, you're going to learn a lot of lessons. So this is me imparting all of my wisdom onto you before you go into a weekend of jamming. Go? There we go. I already gave you my brief history of me. I actually started my career way outside of games in the space industry. Surprise! Where after I graduated school, I worked on one of the next generation GOES satellites, GOES-R, if anybody's interested. I did a bunch of command and data handling software for it and worked on that. Coincidentally, ended up working at a completely different company on the ground processing algorithms of that same satellite, which taught me a lot of good lessons about proper documentation, because you never know when you're going to reference your own documentation. Yeah, that was good. And then eventually I switched over into games, and here I am. So, apparently you have to hold this up here for it to work. If you hold it down here, it doesn't work. In the interest of time, I'm actually going to skip this. There we go. These two. And go straight on to the lessons. Well, everybody keeps hurrying things, so I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go. I have a lot of slides to get through. So, the first thing you're going to do at a game jam is you're going to have to come up with an idea, because you're going to come into this with no ideas, and the big thing is brainstorming. So, lesson 1 of brainstorming. Don't shoot down any ideas coming out of your own head. Every single time I had to come up with a new idea for Game a Week, I didn't even know where to start, because where do ideas come from? I have no idea. When I first started making a game a week, I thought, okay, I have to have 52 ideas in here. I've been thinking about games my whole life. I've been making games my whole life. There's got to be 52 ideas in there. Turns out I had like 4 ideas, whatever. They were all crap. So by the 5th week, I had to learn how to brainstorm. And I realized that I'd be walking down the street and I'd look at a rock, the rock would look funny, and somehow that would turn into this little idea nugget in the back of my head. And I wouldn't know what to do with it because it wasn't this fully formed idea, and I just sort of let it sit there, and it would, egg at me week after week after week, and that's when I sort of learned, okay, I just need to write this down, get it out, talk to people, and just sort of like, even though I have no idea what this idea is, just talk about what the idea is. I saw this funny rock, and it looked a little square, and that made me think of space rocks, which made me think of space puzzles of rocks. I don't know, something, and it would just come out, and every time I wouldn't let those come out, it would just sort of bother me and sit back there. So I very quickly learned to not shoot down ideas in my own head. Just write them down, get them out, and they might form into an idea, they might not, who knows. Conversely, don't shoot down any ideas coming out of anybody else's mouth, because you're going to be in a team. It might be people you've never worked with before. You don't know how their ideas are coming out. Just let them sort of say their ideas. It's probably a stupid little idea nugget as well. Write it down, sort of let it fester and see what's happening. Write everything down. Don't just say the idea and think that it's going to stick there. You're all spitting out ideas. It's getting all, chaotic and everything. Write them all down, even if it makes no sense, even if it's half a sentence. Write it down. You can cross it out later. Paper is cheap. Or I guess since we're in the 21st century, bits are cheap. Just type it out. You can delete it later. It won't cost you any time. But move on to the next idea as soon as possible. Get your little brain nugget, put it down, talk about it a little bit, and then just move on. You're going to have 5-10 minutes maybe that you want to spend brainstorming, because you only have about 48 hours to make the thing. So, just write it all down, move on to the next idea as soon as possible. You want to have a giant list of little half-formed ideas to choose from anyway. So once you have all those little ideas, put down there, then you're going to have to pick which idea actually is a real idea. So what you want to do is you want to go through and you want to sort of talk about the pros and cons of each idea, but without sort of disregarding them. Even if it seems completely out there, completely ridiculous, talk about the pros and cons anyway. Maybe it'll turn out that it's the best idea. There we go. Wait. Yeah, there we go. And then determine sort of what resources you need for each of the idea. If you have an idea for a procedurally generated, fully 3D immersive VR experience, write down that you're going to need a 3D artist, because that's pretty important. Write down what you're going to need for each one of these ideas, and then with that, pick the idea that fits your group's, strengths and constraints and everything. You can't do a procedurally generated 3D, fully immersive VR experience if you have a 2D artist and 5 musicians. You have to make sure you pick the idea that's good for your team. You're not going to pick something that you're just never going to be able to do. Scope. This is a really, really important lesson. This is the most important lesson that I learned over the entire year of making a game every single week was scope. You're going to have an idea. It's going to be the greatest idea you've ever come up with, and you're going to cut it down because you know that you're only doing this for a weekend jam. But your scope is too big. I don't care how small you think your idea is, how simple it is, your scope is too big. I can guarantee you it's too big. So cut things. Cut little extra superfluous mechanics out. When you're done with that, your scope is still too big. Even if you cut out half your idea, it's still too big. You still have too much to do. Just sort of keep cutting things. At that point, you're going to have to keep cutting because it's probably still too much. And what you're going to end up with eventually is your minimum viable product. This is the most important part because you literally have a weekend to make this game. So you have to determine what your minimal viable product is that you're working towards. If you want to make a game about a ship that's going across the universe, collecting little star bits to build this giant star to save the universe, which is a great game idea, write that down. Determine what your minimum viable product is for that game. The minimum viable product of that game is making a spaceship that moves from here to here and collects things. That is your minimum viable product of that really cool idea I just came up with. And that's what you should be working towards. Anything extra, any cool puzzles that you want to make, any cool movement mechanics, any cool extra, procedural generation or deterministic things or fancy music, whatevers, or fancy animations. That's all extra. You want to be working towards just this minimum viable thing. I cannot stress enough how much longer things take than you think they're going to take. Always cut your scope. Work towards a minimum viable product, get that done, and then at some point, if you have extra time, which you probably won't, then you can add in all the really cool things that you wrote down that would be really cool if you did. So once you have your minimum viable product, the next important step is to assign roles. Even if you sort of think that you know what your designated roles are for everybody, you have a team that consists of a musician, an artist, and a programmer. That's pretty clear cut, but who's going to be integrating the music into the Unity project? Who's going to be in charge of making sure that everybody's on task? Who's going to be in charge of setting up the source control, which you should all do as your very first step? Who's going to be in control of making sure that people take snack breaks because they're hungry and grumpy? All these little things are tiny little roles that people don't think about and might assume that everybody else is going to do, and that's a bad assumption to make because nobody's going to do them. So assign roles, figure out who's going to be in charge of what, who's going to be in charge of making sure that everybody's on task and all that good stuff. And then milestones, those are really important. As we all know, anybody who's ever worked on a project, a milestone is important. A lot of these things sort of get thrown out the window when you're doing a game jam like this that's super fast, but milestones are still important. What do you want to have done by the end of the first day? What do you want to have done by the end of the first half day? What are you guys working towards? What are you doing? Because you're on such a tight time schedule, you don't want to end up down the path where one person thought they'd be working towards this first part and the other person thought they'd be working towards this first part, and then all of a sudden you've completely deviated and lost an entire half a day, which is a quarter of your entire jam. Assign hourly milestones and check in with each other and make sure that you're all working towards the same actual minimum viable product. And then go to work. Don't dilly-dally. You don't have that much time. This is another important lesson, is taking care of yourself. When it's just a sort of little tiny weekend jam, a lot of people forget to do all the basic things that are important to live. So you should eat. You should eat food, preferably 3 times a day. You know, you can maybe get away with 2, but eat food. Eat food that aren't Cheetos. Eat food that aren't potato chips. And eat it all. I promise you will be less grumpy if you eat food. Drink something. Probably not beer during the day. That sort of makes you less productive. Maybe something that's not soda, preferably. Keep hydrated. Do all these important things. Sleep. That's the one that always sort of gets the short end of the stick on game jams. You want to make sure that you actually go home and sleep at some point, or, you know, not work when you get home. You know, 24 hours of being awake is going to make you work like crap. Like, that's not going to be helpful work. You want to sleep for 6 hours, you know, wake up the next day and actually get real work done after sleeping a little bit. These may seem really basic, but you're gonna forget. And you're gonna get discouraged. Hooray! Things are fun, but you are gonna hate yourself by the end of the first day because nothing's gonna work. You're gonna feel really bad about it. You're gonna think you're the worst game developer in the entire world because how could you not get this tiny, simple, little itty bitty game that you de-scoped down to like the very basic molecules of a game done in the first day? You're gonna feel terrible about yourself, but it's okay. It's okay because if you're prepared for it, then you'll know that it's okay to be discouraged, and it'll all be okay by the end of it. I don't really have any other helpful tips where you're going to be discouraged. Just don't hate yourself too much. And also maybe help each other. You know, if you see one of your teammates struggling to get anything done, or get something done, or they're just frustrated with something, say, hey, I know I'm a programmer and you're an artist and I don't know how to even draw a circle, but can I maybe draw a circle for you? You know, help each other out, at least offer advice, see if somebody needs to have a break and let them have a break. Conversely, ask for help. Because if you're struggling and you're frustrated but you're not telling anybody, you're just going to get more frustrated and you're not going to be able to do any more work. You know, if you're one programmer on a team that decided for some reason to go with a procedurally generated 3D fully immersive VR experience, and there's some other team out there that has 5 programmers on a heavily art-based game, maybe go to another team and ask if they can spare a programmer for a while. Ask for help. That's a big long one. Yes, you're going to end up with something completely different than what you started with. That's okay. That's the nature of game development, I find, is you have this idea that started out as one thing and you start making it and you go, oh wait, this doesn't even work in any form of interactive medium whatsoever. Why did I ever think this was going to be a good game idea? And it sort of starts morphing into something new and something, you know, completely different than where you started, and just over the course of even just a weekend doing a game jam like this, you know, games can wildly vary from what you had as a 2D platformer to all of a sudden a 3D, maybe also platformer. I don't know. It's going to look completely different. But that's cool. That's just sort of go with the flow. Make sure you're communicating about when the idea starts changing to the rest of your team. You know, because if one of you sort of starts making a 3D game, one of you starts making a 2D game, it's probably not the best game making experience in the world. But yeah, you are going to end up with something totally different. If you don't, that's awesome. But if you do, that's also awesome. And lesson 6 is have fun, which sounds really simple and intuitive. One of the things that kept happening to me when I was doing my Game a Week project was I'd get really frustrated some of the weeks and I would go, you know, oh, I have to make this really good thing because I have to. That's what I have to do. I have to make something good and it's going to be awesome. And I, you know, grind myself down and stop having fun. And those were the weeks that the games were the worst. You know, and it was the weeks where I was like, okay, you know, I'm making games for a living. That's really cool and this is fun. And, you know, I'm making something that people are going to play and experience and be able to go on a journey with, you know, with me and, you know, have fun with it. And sure, not everything about making games is fun. You know, some of it totally sucks. But if you remember sort of deep down to just sort of have fun at something like a game jam like this, then you're going to end up doing something really cool. And that's, again, super awesome. So having fun is sort of the really ultimate goal here. You know, you're doing a game jam, which by its very nature is just a weekend where you get to do something cool and creative and experimental that you don't actually have to make a commercial product at the end of it. It's just something that you get to do that is fun. And so don't lose sight of that and have fun making whatever game you make. Thank you. Oh, I see a question over there, the man in the black shirt.
Where are you going to be tomorrow?
where am I going to be tomorrow? At the Indie Galactic Space Jam that's happening at the Melrose Center. Yes? Was that right? I did it! The Melrose Center. So yeah, if you're going to be at the jam, come there, and it starts at 6:30 p.m., which I totally knew. Just randomly. I'll be there. I'm here too if you want to talk to me. And I'm also on the internet. I'm Miss Minotaur on the internet, on the Twitters, if you want to be my friend and say hi to me. I have time for one real question. That one.
How long did it take to beat Skolas?
Oh, so we started trying to beat Skolas at 11 a.m. and then beat him at 6 a.m. So, not that long. There we go. Yeah, 19 hours. There we go. That's math right there. Oh yeah, and sorry, before we go, I'm going to plug one more thing that I skipped in the brief history of me that I skipped. I organize a game jam every year that happens right before GDC, the Game Developers Conference in San Francisco. Oh, cool. It takes place on a train. Woo! It starts in Chicago and ends in San Francisco. It's called Train Jam. It's a 52-hour train ride, 52-hour game jam. It's super cool. Tickets are probably going to go on sale in the next few months, so if you're interested in Train Jam, it's trainjam.com or at Indie Train Jam on Twitter or at Miss Minotaur. I also tweet about it because it's my baby. It's super fun and super cool, so check it out.
Let's keep it going for Adriel and all of our speakers tonight. Max, Amy, and Michael, who left early. Thank you guys all for coming tonight to kick off a weekend of game and space here at the Science Center. I want to give one last thank you to the organizing team for the Indie Galactic Space Jam for putting us in the Science Center tonight, so thank you to these guys. Indie Galactic Space Jam starts tomorrow at 6:30 at the Melrose Center, so please be sure to get your tickets if you haven't already. And of course, Nerd Night returns September 10th. I had to think about it for a second because I've been working all day. At the Geek Easy, so we'll be back there. You'll be able to not have to sneak your drinks inside, and we'll have 3 fresh presentations on diverse topics that I make up at the last minute. Thank you guys for all coming, and we'll see you next month.
You want me to run down there and grab the rover real quick? Run down there and grab that rover. See if you can run off with that rover. Certainly you could run off and grab that rover. I should like zoom in. You should stay down there real quiet, like, and see if you can fit it in your pants or something. Oh, they're taking pictures of it. Just like, I wish I had the wireless camera thing set up. Well, let me bring this thing back around here and see. So let me zoom all the way out, and we'll see how pretty we are over here, because we're still live. Nope, that ain't it. That's pointing way too low. That's my shirt. There you go. That way I can see myself. Alright, good deal. So, that's the end of what they're doing tonight, guys. What, this rover? I came in with this. I can put it in my bag. It's like I'm just carrying all this computer junk in my arms, and it's like, what? No, I brought this in my arms. This case is totally empty. There's no rovers in this case. What are you talking about? Anyways, guys, I'm at the Indie Galactic Space Jam. I'm in Orlando, Florida all weekend. Should be doing live streams from the Space Jam. Tomorrow we'll be at the other venue. They're going to have like some speakers and that sort of stuff going on tomorrow. Also, what the Space Jam is, they're actually have a bunch of people that come together, and there's like programmers, and there's artists, and there's music people, and there's just idea people, and then there's people like me who just talk a lot. And tomorrow night on Friday, they're going to pitch ideas for games. Some dude may have like an idea for a game, and he's going to stand up on the stage and be like, my game is going to be awesome, here's why, here's what I need, and people can just like, out of the blue, sign up to be on his team, and they're going to have 48 hours to develop that game. So I'm going to be streaming that tomorrow, all the game pitches and that sort of stuff, and we'll see kind of the teams come together and whatever. And then I'll be streaming all day Saturday. I'm going to offer my services in like Twitch chat services as like feedback or ideas or that sort of stuff. So if somebody wants to come over and just talk to us for like 15 minutes, they'll be welcome to come over. I'll be live basically all day Saturday from like lunchtime until 11 p.m. I think. What else? Oh, and then Sunday they're actually going to present the games. So we're going to see if we can't get some of the games. I don't know if we'll be able to play some of the games, stream some of the games. Some of the games are going to be available for download, I believe. I'm not sure exactly, but we'll have to see what comes of it and see if you guys can kind of like get into some of that action. But that's what I'm doing all weekend long with the ultra professional lighting here, right? I'm like bounce lighting where the bounce is off the Planetaria dome and kind of like making me glow. I have a bunch of professional lighting. I just didn't have time to set it up. Probably could have helped them out some, but that's okay. Anything else? A great reality TV show. And I am reading chat, guys. I've got you guys on my monitor. This monitor sits in my lap. And I've been reading chat. Y'all heard me typing while they were going. I wasn't like trying to do like a Call of Duty like sub-vocalization sort of deal. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to talk over them and stuff. So I just didn't even mic myself. We just had the camera and everything. I'm beyond that. I think that's the deal. I think I'm done for now. I think I'm done for tonight. I'm going to go back and get some sleep. Drove a long way today to get down here. Actually, drove down from Charlotte. It's like a 7-8 hour drive. So that's the plan. I'm not going to be doing much tomorrow either. Going to be spending some family time tomorrow. And then tomorrow, I believe it's going to start at 6 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. I might go live a little bit before then. I'm going to go over there earlier. I'll get set up. We'll make sure the stream is all nominal and all that sort of stuff. And we'll kind of go from there. But
you guys get,
that's the plan. We're still live. Yeah. Hey, dude.
Things are going on to go on Twitch?
What's up? No, wait.
Hello.
Yeah, no, right there. You're good,
hello.
Man. Yes.
Hi, Twitch.
Yeah, what's up?
My name is Ricardo. I'm from Nerd Night.
There you go.
Thanks for listening, watching, and chatting with us. I have nothing to say.
Why have you been talking for the past 2 hours?
Yeah.
No, it's all going great. We're actually still live right now. And this guy right here, dude, you're kind of important, aren't you?
I'm not important at all.
You're not important at all. So, he's like hiding in the background there. We're like in really terrible lighting here, but you're actually, Kunal here is actually in charge of the Intergalactic Space Jam. We'll be talking to some
one of many.
You. One of many, okay.
Yeah.
We'll be talking to you over the next couple days.
Yeah, absolutely.
Over at the facility. It's 6:30 tomorrow, right?
6:30 tomorrow.
Kicks off at 6:30.
Yeah, and then just madness ensues for the next 2 days after that.
Excellent. We'll be there. We were able to live stream all this tonight. So
awesome.
It's all up. We got the recordings and VODs, and I'll get over to you.
Sweet.
Excellent.
Thanks.
Good deal, man. Thanks. All right, guys. I think I'm going to go ahead and call it. That's the end of the stream right there. Yeah, you guys, I know that's a little bit of a different thing, and I did set it up as a gaming talk show as opposed to a playing Kerbal Space Program sort of deal. So it's something I was trying. We'd see how it worked. A little better lighting could be good. Playing around with the microphones could be good. I feel like you guys can hear me. I feel like the glow of my console is like what's lighting up my face right now. But I do appreciate everybody that watched us. We were like rocking 200 people about through the whole stream. So it's a little bit different thing. But I enjoyed it. So I appreciate you guys hanging out with us. I'm going to go ahead and kill it right here. We'll do a little bit of an outro roll. And we will catch you nerds later. Thank you so much for hanging out. As always, again, Intergalactic Space Jam, Orlando, Florida. If you're within striking distance, come on by Orlando, and we will figure out what's going on. We may do like a meetup or something. We'll have to do like maybe an external meetup instead of like an internal meetup. We'll figure that out. I always say that. Anyways, also thanks to Lightning Avenger over here, right there in the background. If you saw him for a second, he came on over. So if you were within striking distance, make sure you stop by. We'll all hang out together, play some KSP, play some other games, talk to some people, make some video games, and that sort of stuff. But for now, I'm gonna go ahead and go, and we'll do a little bit of an outro roll. I don't know how to raid. I mean, I'm not really specifically set up to do a raid right now, guys. So I'm not gonna do a raid. Anyways, I think it worked well. I think it worked. R.I.P. Oh man, yeah, Gene. Listen to Gene for the raid. Whatever's there, listen to Gene, and he'll send you somewhere to go. That sounds like a plan. But I'm gonna go ahead and call it, guys. We'll do an outro stream. We'll catch you nerds later. 6 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. It's currently 10:12 Eastern Daylight Time, so less than 24 hours. It's all weekend long, Czar Commander. The convention's all weekend long, so you'll be able to see Intergalactic stuff starting at 6 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time tomorrow, going until about 11 p.m. I think, 9/11, something like that, and then Saturday all day long. I'm probably going to stream from like noon until 11 p.m. because a nice 11-hour live stream from a venue is probably good. Sunday, again, it's like an all-day sort of thing. I'm probably going to try and stream afternoon and get the closing ceremonies where people are presenting their games and that sort of stuff. We'll see if we can't sneak attack, back up, snack, stab, I don't even know what I was saying, a couple people and see if we can get them to come over and answer some questions about what they're working on. Maybe you guys can ask some questions, but we'll see. We're just making it up as we go. But I'm kind of having fun doing this, so appreciate everybody hanging out, and we'll just go ahead and roll. You guys have fun. Where's the thingy that I need to click on? Yeah. All right, guys. Catch y'all later.
Thank you.